Alright, so welcome back. Today we're going to be doing enemy damage, so we're going to make the enemy be able to shoot back at you, and you can shoot back at the enemy and stuff. So last time we left off, we have a player. He can just walk around the room and he can fire bullets, and you can see when he fires a bullet, it will damage the enemy here. 3, 2, 1, the enemy's dead. But now we want to make it so the enemy can actually fire back at the player, so let's get started with that. The first thing we want to do is we want to make an object enemy bullet. So that's just be obj underscore, swipe in the corner here, obj underscore enemy bullet. And we can just use the same sprite as before because all the bullets can look the same. And inside of that, we're going to add a create event. And we're just going to initialize some of the first variables here. So that's going to be the direction our player is the bullet's flying in, the fly speed, so how fast we want it to go. I'm going to set that to 15, HSP equals 0, and VSP equals 0. So this is the direction we want the bullet to point to, so that's going to be towards the player. The speed of it, horizontal and vertical speed. And then for now, all we're going to add is a step event, and inside x plus equals HSP, v or y plus equals VSP. Very simple movement code. It's just going to move pretty much. So now we want to actually be able to make it so the bullet can be created. So we're going to go into our object enemy here, and this shouldn't be here. But essentially, we're going to want to add something in the create event. So basically, all we got to add is this one line of code here: alarm 0 equals 1. That's saying once the game starts, it's going to start, this timer that'll start shooting bullets at you. Next, we're going to go to the alarm 0 event, so add event alarm 0, drag another piece of code here, and in here, we're going to type a couple of lines of code. So the first thing we want to do is if instance exists object player, the var bullet equals instance create xy object enemy bullet. So what we're saying right now is if our player exists in the room, we're going to create this bullet, and then we're going to set it to this variable var bullet. So it's a local variable, which means it can only be used inside of this block of code. And what this means is we can control the bullet's movements inside of the enemy object. So we don't have to actually go manually change it in the bullet. So next what we want to do is we can go bullet.dir, which is a direction variable we already set, equals point direction, x, y, object player.x, object player.y. So that's saying, okay, if our player exists in the room, we're going to create a bullet and we're going to point it towards our player. So because we want it to fly towards our player, obviously. And then, simply because we want the timer to repeat itself, alarm 0 equals room speed. What this does is it'll say, okay, we have this alarm here. It runs every time it ticks down to 0. So we're just going to set it back to room speed, which is 1 second, or however many frames we have. So right now it's running at 60 frames per second, so that'll be 60 frames. It'll count down from 60. Once it reaches 0, it'll shoot another bullet. So essentially, that's it. If we run the game right now, and we can see that now it should start shooting bullets at us. However, there is just one little issue here, and it's that right now the bullets aren't actually moving, so you can't actually see them. And why that is because when we created it, we have HSP and VSP equal to 0. And of course, even though in our step event we're saying, okay, move, we're not telling it how we should move. So let's get that set up. We're not actually setting our speed, right? So for that, it's a couple of simple lines of code. HSP equals length dir x, fly speed dir, and VSP equals length dir y, fly speed dir. You can see this is very similar code as we had in the player's bullet. And of course, the last thing we want to do while we're here is just make sure when it hits a wall, it'll get destroyed. X, Y, object, wall, instance, destroy. So now essentially we have it, so it's actually taking a direction, and now it should actually start shooting the bullet towards us. So we run the game here, and you can see it's starting to shoot bullets towards us. Right? The thing is, we're not actually taking any damage yet. So it's not actually damaging us at all. So let's go get that set up now. So once again, that's some pretty easy code here. All we need to do is actually just go into our player. We're done with everything else. Into our step event. And the very bottom here, right before we actually check if we're about to die, we're just going to set up some code to check if we hit the bullet. And that's as simple as if instance exists x, y, object, enemy bullet, oops. Oh, I don't need the xy, whoops. So if instance exists, object, enemy bullet, we can create a variable, e-bullet, that's the enemy bullet, equals instance nearest object enemy bullet. This one needs the y, x, y, object enemy bullet. So essentially we're saying, okay, if the bullet is in the room, so the enemy's shot, we're gonna check which bullet is closest to hitting us, and that's gonna be the one we're gonna check to take damage from. And then all you gotta do is if place meeting x, y, e bullet. So if we're touching the one that's closest to us, we're gonna go HP minus minus and with e bullet instance destroy. So now we should be able to check here when we run it. We should actually start the bullet. So first of all, the bullet won't shoot through us, and second of all, if we take damage 10 times, you should see the level restart. Yep, so you can see I died there, and our player ended up back in this little spawn chamber here. But of course, we weren't actually able to see how much health we were at. So let's fix that right now. Let's go check and actually go see what our health is at. So it's as simple as you can hit OK for everything else. Go to add a new event, a draw GUI event, and go and drop in a single code block. And it's one line of code here. All it is draw text 16, 16, or whatever coordinates you want, and then string HP. Now, of course, if you want to be a little bit extra fancy, you can go HP plus string HP, and so it'll actually just say, okay, this is our HP variable, but you can just have it as string HP as well. So let's hit run here one last time, and you should see that now we have our HP drawn in the top corner here. You can see HP equals 10, and if we take damage, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the level restarts when our player dies. Right? So perfect. Now we actually have an enemy that can shoot at our player. And that's it. We can now actually have basic combat. So you guys can start setting up some levels now. And next time, I'll be showing you guys how to actually move between levels, how to beat levels, stuff like that. I'm just gonna shoot him there. Perfect. So, I'll see you in the next episode.